Hello, everybody, and welcome to Uncontested with MSK. This is your host, Matt, joined as always by Kevin and Sam. How's it going, boys?
Yeah, it's going. It do be going.
It's not just going for you. Look at that face. Look at the face, not this face, on his camera. Jamal motherfucking Murray. Like I said, I might have to backtrack a lot of my words, but I think this is going to be a really good series. I think it'll be fun, but the guy in the background for him, he's him.
That's a hot take for sure. Why don't we get into? We're just going to go right into it with a little bit of an update for the playoffs. First one that I want to go over, or actually a little interesting thing that I want to do really quickly. Uh, who would you guys rather have if it was a complete another redraft? Who would you rather have? I'll go with Kevin, and then we can go Sam. Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Brunson, or Paolo. Kevin, you go first. I think I know your answer.
What's the scenario for this? Is this for a fresh draft pick of
Yeah,
those four people?
yeah. It's the new organization of Colorado professional basketball players that isn't the Denver Nuggets, and you
Got
get
it.
the first draft pick.
Got it.
And these four are the only available ones.
Yeah. I mean, knowing what we know now, I gotta go Anthony Edwards. Like man got that dog in him. He
He
might not be
does.
he might not be carrying the Timberwolves too far in the playoffs anymore, but
Oh,
he's good. He's really, really good, and he has that clutch factor. He's throwing down those threes when they're down by 10. He's making good shots when he needs to. He does a lot for that Minnesota team, and I think that's invaluable. I think a couple of those other guys are still like really good like that. Like Jason Tatum's still amazing, but I don't know. Anthony Edwards is pretty good right now.
Sam.
what's the scenario again? I was zoned out by the ridiculous pick that Kevin made.
That's bullshit. First pick in the draft of the new California team, Sam. Who do you got?
What part of California? That's the real question. That's the real question you start asking because, being in Sacramento versus being in LA, I think we got two different types
Oh, for
of,
fuck's sake.
if we're
Pick
talking
your
about the Eureka earthworms, yes, exactly, the Eureka earthworms, uh, who the best leader for that team and who would like to be vibing out there would obviously be Jason Tatum. I don't know how we didn't pick Jason Tatum to begin with. Yeah, look at Matt. Look at Matt's eyes. He's just like
I'm actually
he
very shocked right now that you said that. I am blown away.
look, if you're here to not win championships, okay, you pick Jason Tatum.
Uh,
I think that's the there we go.
I knew it. I knew there was a double-edged sword. I fucking knew it.
I, I would say that I think Jason Tatum's downfall is more of his supporting cast, but that's a little bit of a hot take that we could talk a little bit later. But uh, I think Jason Tatum, I think overall, I think probably the greatest steal. I mean, I know he's the third pick in his draft class, but I think the greatest steal probably ever in history that we will probably talk about forever and ever. But I mean, we look at Jason Tatum, MVP caliber. Like I said, I think it's his supporting cast makes him not MVP caliber in terms of the media talk and all that. But I think an overall skill set, I mean, ball handling, scoring ability, takeover ability. I mean, I think Jason Tatum has the full package. And when you look at the other talent on this, I think it's safe to say I think there's like a different tiering system we have here. I mean, Paolo is still Rook. I still even put Ant still in Rook tier. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you heard me. Um, you know, Interesting enough, I put Brunson to a different level. I think there's a weird maturity to his game that's just like it's almost CP3 like in my opinion, with more of a scoring aspect. Maybe like Rajon Rondo with the Russell Westbrook. It's kind of weird. It's a really weird like uh, vibe I get from Brunson. And I think just Jason Tatum is just. I mean, you hear the talks all year. I mean, he's leading his team, year after year after year, to a real championship caliber. Yes, they can't finish, like I said, a different topic to begin with. But I think in terms of overall player, I want to be the face of my franchise. I think it's easy to say Jason Tatum.
Okay. Okay. I vibe with that. I was originally going to go with Anthony Edwards, but I'm not going to lie, Sam, you might have swayed me a little bit there. It's kind of like the hope that I needed to hear. I needed to know that I wasn't crazy. I needed to
That's what I'm
not
here for.
gaslight myself for once.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to give you it and immediately snatch it back. So don't you worry. We have more to this pod.
Yeah, I love that. I can't wait for that. I feel like the tier that you were talking about with that Brunson is in is kind of like the same one as Anthony Edwards, where the tier is literally called "We Have That Dog in Us." That's just the tier, and it's
Like that tier.
literally just Anthony Edwards and Brunson. That's it. And sorry, and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has to be there.
Off-season Jimmy Butler, I like to say. I don't know about in-season Jimmy Butler. We can't even see him in the game. We can't even see him in the games. Come on.
All right, boys, let's talk about the Cavaliers and the Celtics. Currently, Celtics are up 3-1. I was pretty disappointed in the last game that they played. I don't know how much of it that you guys saw. They won, don't get me wrong, but boy oh boy, I was expecting a little bit of a higher margin than I think it was 109 to 102. And
Right.
the thing that really scares me about that is the Cavaliers did not have Donovan Mitchell, who has, I think we could all confidently say, has been carrying the Cavaliers right now throughout this entire playoff session. Uh,
Mhm.
is Tatum going more towards like the Celtic side of it, and then we can go more towards the Cavs? Is Tatum kind of getting like a little bit of wrongful hate? Because a lot of like coincidentally, Boston, one of the worst fan bases ever, is really tearing into Jason Tatum right now. Um, Sam, do you think that he's kind of been getting some wrongful hate? I know you were just talking about him, so that's why I kind of want to throw this question to you. What do you think?
This is where I give you some, and now I'm going to take some back.
Okay.
Right? So this is where it happens, and I think this is kind of the whole story for the past few years with Tatum is that um, what he reminds me of is like a Steph Curry, which is I think is a little bit of an interesting take where he's not your vocal lead, he's not your guy, he's not your pick me up, right? Like that's what you have at Draymond Green, right?
Hmm.
I think the Marcus Smart trade, I get the trade, but I think the vocal aspect, who's going to talk on this team? The problem is
I
a
agree.
lot of people talk on this team. So who's that vocal leader on this team? And I think sometimes if you're the best player, it doesn't mean you have to be the most vocal, but you need to have that right balance on your team. And I mean, you look at the roster, right? It's Tatum, Horford, Holiday, White, Brown, and let's just say Porzingis, right?
Sure.
Porzingis, new guy in town, injured. Let's see if he comes back in this playoffs. I'm not sure I mean, the severity of his injury was pretty bad. Being lanky and manky. Um, you're not going to see Derek White talking that much. Drew Holiday, also to someone that's not much of a talker. We saw more Giannis. He's probably one of those guys that gets, more in the face. I mean, heck, even his brother was talks too much at times. Um, Al Horford is veteran presence, but still, they're all very quiet guys in this one. Jaylen Brown probably talks the most, but he's kind of like passive aggressive. I mean, it's kind of annoying at times. Um,
That's
like,
so true.
like I'd be interested to see a little bit of a side note. Jaylen Brown not being on this roster next season, just trying to see if they can get some more pieces that really are supportive. I think the thing is that they actually do won't complement each other's game because they're both very similar in how they play. That it's just you're relying too much on two players' scoring ability to be the driving force. I don't think they have much of a facilitation game. I mean, you can look at the assists in that game. Highest assist was by Tatum. That's 5 assists. Total assists by this team, 15 assists. I think it's very low for such a high caliber team. This shows that it's a very strong scoring team individually, but it does make me a little concerned that when things are not panning out. I mean, we saw in the loss they have with Cleveland. That was horrible. That was a very big shock, in my opinion. You know, I think we knew that Cleveland was going to rebound, from the loss, but I don't think we think it was going to be like lose by 40, then lose by 40 this way. Um, it makes me, that's what makes the Celtics like kind of like a pseudo threat, in my opinion, because there's that lack of consistency and being, consistently good. And even for the losses, still being very close to the opposition. But back to the Tatum point, the thing is, it's like I think Tatum has a lot of, it's not even real flaws. It's just his nature. He's not very vocal in that sense. He's just someone that speaks with his game. And in times when he was needed, and I think we've all talked about before that in the playoffs, in critical moments, he's not there. And I think this plus will be a real telling that is this a consistent thing? Because and this is about 3 years now, and we're still seeing him fall short in really critical moments. He does real well in the first 2 rounds, but going to the next round and really into the finals, it has not been really prevalent. But the key piece here is who's really talking for the team. And the thing is, no one. No one's really talking for them. Everyone's talking with their game, but who's the guy when they're down by 20 at half that can pick them up and rattle back in to the game?
Yeah, I really need that Marcus Smart, man. Like the trade, like you said, made sense. Logically, it definitely made sense, but like that was such a big piece, man.
Mm.
I remember last year when he like threw, I don't know if he made a huge fucking mess in the locker room, and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna have a player meeting. And I was just like, oh damn, somebody's actually talking shit. Thank God. Um, I do have a take. I do think Jaylen Brown is kind of like not very long for this team. It's just like he's paid so much money to not be the number one guy, and that I feel like that might play into his ego a bunch. Um, and he probably wants to be his own guy. He probably wants to be like the best player on another team. Whether or not he can do that, who knows? I think he's still an incredible player, but it's just like Sam said, he doesn't really, it's not very vocal. And when he is, it's very passive aggressive. So it's just like, who the fuck cares? But going into the next one, Kevin, Timberwolves and Nuggets, who are playing a little bit later tonight. Does it, am I the only one, or does it feel like this is like the actual NBA finals? Like, am I crazy to think that this feels like the actual NBA finals right now?
It has a lot of those aspects to it because it's really close. Both teams have won games when they've been away instead of at home. Like
Super weird.
it's at the end of the day, it's really good basketball that's being played. And it's basketball at the highest level where some of these other series in the playoffs haven't been quite to that same caliber. They're still better than regular season games for sure, but sometimes you can tell that teams, I don't want to say they're not giving 100%, but they're not giving 110%. And that's what it feels like this whole series is, especially now that the Nuggets went down and came back. Like now it feels like everyone out on the floor at any given time is giving 110%. And that's what makes it so exciting. And on top of that, you just have Jokic, who's obviously, I think, unanimously the best player in the NBA currently. You have Anthony Edwards, who is the best or top 3 best young players in the NBA currently. You have Rudy Gobert, who I think is a fraud, but Defensive Player of the Year. You have Naz Reid, an amazing bench player, 6th Man of the Year. You have Jamal Murray, who is a clutch merchant. Man makes clutch buckets like it's his job, because it is. And then you have other people just like Aaron Gordon that are just fun to watch. And like there's so many good players in this series that it's really, really, really hard not to just be super excited about it as a basketball fan. Like these have been some of the best games I've seen in a long time. And especially I feel like we were kind of spoiled with some of the finals of the past like few years before. Like Warriors Cavs finals is amazing and legendary and like stuff like that just kind of spoiled us. And then the past couple years finals have been good but not like insane. And so now that we're getting an insane series, it's super hype. So
Yeah, I think like the one thing that I have to counter, just like as far as like, because I do agree, this is like the best series of the playoffs thus far, in my opinion. And also, I do believe very firmly that whoever wins this series will probably win the ship. Like whether it's the Timberwolves or the Nuggets, I really do think they're the ones that will win it. Um, the one thing I do want to remind all of those who are a little bit skeptical of the rest of the teams. The
Uh,
Timberwolves and the Nuggets, I believe, are the only two teams that actually don't have injuries, or like don't have injuries to like star players. Like, let's look at the Knicks, right? They lost like what, four of their best players or four of like their top players, and they have like a Jalen Brunson who is injured and still balling out like crazy. Which, by the way, while Timberwolves and Nuggets are one of my most like fun watched like games or series, the Knicks and the Knicks and the Pacers are a close second because the Knicks are truly a Tom Thibodeau wet dream. Like, they ball out so goddamn hard, it's insane. Do you know who is the second leading rebound artist in the playoffs right now? It's fucking Josh Hart. It is Josh Hart at number
Wow.
2, who is leading in rebounds. This man is like fucking Dennis Rodman Jr. It's insane. He is fishing for rebounds. It's crazy. This guy gives an insane amount of, pun intended, heart. I'm gonna be a dad, guys. I gotta like. When is it gonna start? Yeah. Um, I it's very fascinating. I do think this is one of the very first or one of the main playoffs where it just seems like every single person is hurt. And it really sucks to watch. I hate that, but like this one, like Kevin said, it is so entertaining. It is so good. You have and Aaron Gordon has been also really, really fucking good. Like he does not make threes, and yet he's shooting them, and some of them are going in pretty well. Um, Sam, do you have anything that you want to add to this one? I think Kevin pretty hit it pretty nail on the head right now.
Yeah, I mean, look at my background. I mean, the man's not a just cancer, he's COVID. And it's what happened when you have Gilbert Arenas is right? Gotta get rid of all the Europeans because this is what happens.
Damn!
You see,
No,
you see a lot,
no.
you see a lot of fraud in the NBA, as Kevin May put it.
I would like to say that Sam's
I'm just saying,
opinions
where's Giannis?
affect the
Where's
podcast.
Giannis? Where's Giannis? Exactly. Where's Giannis? Exactly my
Um,
point. Um, I think the thing is, I think we still don't really know who's going to win this. I think the veteran aspects of uh, the Nuggets has been really shown here. I mean, kudos to the Aaron Gordon 11 for 12 being 2 feet from the rim, dunking it constantly. I think that's finally for the first time it's actually been utilized properly uh, since the since he's joined the Nuggets. And I think Jamal Murray really showing that presence. The amount of buzzer beaters that we've seen already in this playoffs has been not only exhilarating, but just really shows the consistency that he has in big moments that I think a lot of players don't have. It's that, how does Matthew say it, that dog in him? I think that's that he's a pit bull among the dogs, as Drake would say, for all the dogs. That's what this man's about. Um, and I think along the lines of Jokic, it would be a real shame if it went 3-1 or 3-0 or at that time with Jokic winning the MVP, because that would just show that, what are we really voting for here? And I think tying up the series, showing that his stats really do matter and impact this game. I think it shows that, an MVP is real talent. That's what I'm saying. The real fraud of the NBA, Joel Embiid. Later topic, but Joel Embiid, a real fraud.
Goddamn, that's some fire. That's a fire take right there. I wanted to originally get into the Pacers and Knicks, but I feel like I really want to talk about the OKC and Mavs right now because it's a very interesting thing that's going on with that with these games. Last night, OKC came out on top, but it felt like they barely squeaked it out. The Mavs were controlling that game for a majority of the time. SGA has been an elite scorer, an elite player. Uh, Definitely bringing in the question of was he, snuffed for MVP. Very interesting. Luca, boy oh boy, that man is hurt. What was the quote that he had? Everything hurts. I feel for him, man. I really, really feel for him. A surprising player to come out of this, which I don't think anybody really saw happening, was PJ Washington, who is just like absolutely dominating right now. He's been so good. Same thing with Daniel Gafford. Oh my goodness, that is a fucking defensive menace. And we were just talking about how like how Aaron Gordon has finally like gotten his role to like being a paint player, and like that's kind of where Gafford is living right now. But so far, just like with all the injuries that are kind of going on, and with Luka hobbled, um, Sam, what do you think the Mavs have to do in order to get out of this and to come out on top?
As my homies say on this podcast, score. I mean, I think it's just kind of prevalent looking at how the last game went. When your best talent, your best duo on the court puts less than 30 points up in this game, and as much as you can facilitate to the rest of your teammates. I mean, let's look at the roster. I mean, in terms of actual corner threats, you have like Tim Hardaway Jr., who's coming back from an injury. You have Josh Green, Dante Exum. Like, they're not having real talents. I mean, Derek Jones Jr., they're not real shooters. You know what I'm trying to say here is that they're people who can try to make a move, but it doesn't necessarily immediately associate to scoring. And I think that's the problem here is that, I mean, Kyrie Irving, I don't know what really happened in this game. I think it's the first time we've seen like a really bad game by Kyrie Irving. So maybe it's a fluke of a game and just, having just 9 points, no threes made, those clutch shots from Kyrie Irving in a lot of those critical moments. I mean, like you said on Luka, and I think that comes down to, I mean, I don't know if it's a critical point to discuss, but like I think the biggest complaint with Luka is his physique. Is this proof that he cannot keep up in these games that are critical? And does that mean he needs to change up his regimen? I don't know. But I think the bigger thing is that what are the Mavericks done to really build this roster to help Luka? For me, this is no different than this is like a slightly better version than the Atlanta situation with Trae Young. What has Atlanta done for Trae Young? They got DeJounte Murray, but a one-time All-Star that doesn't really know how to shoot the ball. Here, at least, we have Kyrie Irving that can actually, I think the first time in like 3-4 years he's actually playing basketball and not saying something ridiculous, every 3 seconds. And I think it comes down to also just OKC's defensive presence. I think the youthfulness to this roster is really fun to see. It reminds us of like the Timberwolves. I think the missing point here for OKC is that veteran presence, which makes them a little more vulnerable. But the Mavericks are just missing real scoring depth, and it is not present with the current roster.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. If it does feel kind of like OKC might have like that scoring ability if they don't use Josh Giddey. That guy needs to fuck right off because my God, what a waste of space. He's been so bad. Don't give me that shock look, Kevin. He has been abysmal for this team. It is tough. It is tough to watch. Really quickly, I just want to talk about the Knicks and Pacers. I think I'm not alone in saying that this has been a surprisingly awesome series to watch. It has been so entertaining to watch like the Knicks be absolutely dominant. However, they lost by a huge margin last game. It was 89 to 120. Absolutely terrible. Obviously, without OG Anunoby, it's looking really tough. I do want to say that tonight the Knicks are up at the half by 69 to 54. So who knows what will happen? Jalen Brunson at the half, he has 28 points at the half. I don't like. What does this man have to do? like you want to talk about players trying to carry their team on their back? Like Jalen Brunson should be right up there. I will say this, however, Jalen Brunson has a much better supporting cast around him than maybe some of the other teams that we have seen. Josh Hart, like I said before, fantastic player. You want to talk about somebody who like has that dog in him? He has that dog in him. Dante DiVincenzo, really piss poor game right now, but like when he's hot, he can score 35 points. Like it's absolutely crazy for him. It's a very interesting series to go over. I think it's very indicative that we talk about the Knicks more than we talk about the Pacers. I feel like that kind of says a lot. Halliburton, I mean, he's fantastic, but like I don't know. I don't know if it's just like prejudice, if it's more of just like maybe I'm missing something of the Pacers because I just don't really because I know well, either way they're going to lose to the Celtics. You know, like it just seems like both of these teams are not meant to last very long. Kevin, am I losing it here? Like, am I like just like dissing on the Pacers, or am I like kind of in the right? Like, where am I right now?
I think you're dissing on the Pacers a little bit, but I understand where you're coming from too. I think the Pacers are a weird team in the current NBA. They're kind of old school in the sense of they're not shooting threes left and right. They're moving the ball around a lot. Everyone's kind of scoring on their team pretty evenly. Most games, it's not like one or two guys that have like 30 points each. It's five guys that have 15 points each, which is weird in this current NBA. Like that doesn't fit the mold of every other team. And the Knicks are almost even on a similar style of that, but they're a lot more
Defense heavy.
Tom Thibodeau led of just all balls to the wall, like brute force kind of vibe, and I love that. But
like throwing players out to play for maybe I don't know 48 minutes.
Yeah, but I do think the Pacers have that. I kind of always throw out this example: the Spurs Tim Duncan kind of vibe of like, yeah, it's not that flashy to watch all the time, but it's good basketball. So I think they get overlooked a lot of the time, but I think they're doing a lot of good stuff, and it's still a really young team overall. So I think they have a lot of room to grow, especially Halliburton. I think Halliburton is really, really impressive, and I think he's only going to get better from where he is now. So I'm excited to see what they do, but I think if they go up against a Celtics team, I think they'll still lose.
All I'm going to say is that there is one team that's a little bit that's the most fun to watch in Indiana, and it might be the Fever.
I would like to say that interesting stat. Before Game 3, Josh had played 4 straight full games, 48-minute games, which is the first time since 2013. And guess who did it? Friendly person of this podcast. Oh, Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler had done this in 2013. So maybe this is a telling that Josh Hart will be Jimmy Butler. I mean, he's very vocal. So, that's how we're going to do it.
2013, was that when Jimmy Butler was on the Tom Thibodeau Chicago Bulls?
I think so. I think so. Tom Thibodeau has it out for some guys, man.
Dude, that is absolutely perfect. Oh my!
Yeah, let's look at this roster real quick from this 2013. Lou Amundsen. Wow, I forgot he existed. DJ Augustine, Carlos Boozer. Yo, paint on hair, Carlos Boozer, Ronnie Brewer, Jimmy Butler, Luol Deng. Don't forget Luol Deng existed, was alive. Jesus, Kirk Heinrich was on this roster. Oh my God. Jimmer Fredette, Mike Dunleavy.
The Bulls had Jimmer Fredette?
Jimmer Fredette.
Oh my God, that's wild.
Oh yeah, Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose. Wow.
That's peak Tom Tibbs Bulls.
It's like, yeah, that is definitely. But yeah, I mean that goes to show. The Pacers definitely I feel like the Pacers thrive when other teams try to play on their level. Like the Pacers is just such a fast-paced team. They are go go go, and if other teams are trying to do that, it's just like they're just going to beat you to it. Like that's just how they've been this entire season. And with the Pacers and the Knicks, it's kind of like what is the saying? It's like an immovable object with a what is it, Kevin?
Unstoppable force.
Thank you. Because like the Knicks are just like, this defense is going to fuck you up, and then the Pacers are like, this offense is going to fuck you up too. So it's like a super interesting series to talk about. Um, Going on to the next thing, I just really quickly wanted to say I saw in a tweet that the Chicago Bulls have come out and said that they feel like they're not going to do anything next year, any big changes, because they feel like they are a competitive team. um, no. I I can't be more frustrated with this team. I don't know how low I can possibly go with them. Um, Listen, I love them. I love the Chicago Bulls till I die. But for fuck's sake, man, you got to give me something. I need some cope. I need something to like just to hold on to, please, please, for the love of God, please. Uh, I know that they want to keep DeMar DeRozan, and that's probably one of the reasons why they are saying that they're going to be competitive because they want to hold on to him. But listen, when the relationship is over, you need to be the big man and say, "Hey, this is done. We need to step back and we need to figure out this toxic situation." Yeah? Like this is a toxic relationship with the Bulls management and the rest of Chicago. I don't know. We just really want to be divorced from these guys, and it's just like we're giving them the divorce papers, and they're just like, no. They're just assholes. They're big gaping assholes, and it's super annoying to watch. The Bulls are not going to be competitive next year, and if they are, they're going to be a ninth seed. This is the same goddamn thing that we've been seeing for years. Just blow it up. Like I know this draft isn't great coming up, but like do something, right? Like blow it up. I don't fucking care. Get rid of it. Oh my fucking god. I'm skipping this before my head explodes and I get a migraine. Um, Sam, the Atlanta Hawks did end up winning the lottery. Do we care?
I think this is like I said, this is one of the shittiest drafts we've ever seen. It's not that much. They're gonna find a lot more role players rather than actual star players. I mean, I think there's a lot of good talent that will probably develop into some really good talent over the next few, you know, 3, 4 years, but nothing that's right off the bat, like how we saw last year with my boy Vic. I think next year will be a little bit more interesting. But like, what do you do with this pick, right? I think that's kind of the main question we hear because it feels like everyone's saying we're here to shop, we're here to shop the pick, but eventually someone has a bite, right? Someone has a bite on how this draft is going to be, and you know I think there's a lot of things happening in Atlanta. And there's a lot of talk about moving on from Trae Young, moving on from Murray, blowing this up, keeping them, and does this first pick tell us something about, hey, maybe we can keep this guy, we can get another young guy to add to this situation that's going on. But, they did it with DeAndre Hunter. It's not panning out as great. They did it with a lot of young guys. I think they're missing that real, like, veteran presence that can kind of get them aligned and get them going. But I mean, looking at this roster, our boy Bogey, Sadiq Bey, Clint Capella, forever legend of ours, DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson. And as you go down, it gets a little dry in terms of who you can rely on. And I think the issue is when Trae Young gets out, who's scoring for this team? There is DeJounte Murray, but who's really being able to be a real playmaker for this roster? So it will be interesting to see what the Hawks do. I mean, there are some good pieces that could work. Alexander Czar, out of France, just being, 6'11", I think 7'1", I think is what his height was. Moving on from Clint Capella to have just another young big man, play alongside the youthfulness of the DeJounte Murray and Trae Young duo. Maybe they just need a real, caliber player that can play alongside them, while also having that defensive presence. I think this athlete, is capable of doing that, alongside with the guard presence of DeJounte Murray. So I think we're all sellers of this draft. We're just here to we got the pick. Let's get out of it. Let's just, even means we get some, come change pieces just to, help build out the bench. It might be something to consider, but I think for the Atlanta Hawks, I think it's important for them to make the smart decisions here because that will kind of dictate how they move forward with the future.
Yeah. According to Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer, he has a fantastic article on like the next draft class and where like think people are basically projected to go. Number one, Alex Sarr from France. Looking at his profile, I'm just going to read it out to you guys. Shades of Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jonathan Isaac, so defense, which is honestly what Atlanta needs the most. Skyscraping wing trapped in the center's body with a rare blend of size, finesse, and explosiveness. Awesome. Known for his on-ball defense, his shot blocking, positional versatility, and his hustle. These are all things that Atlanta needs. However, I think Sam was hinting at it a little bit. We don't know what Atlanta is going to do in the offseason. We don't know if they're going to move on from Trae Young or if they're going to move on from DeJounte Murray. I don't know if this player is a good enough thing for the Hawks to like convince Trae Young to stay. I don't think at all. I think they would have to get a win now player, which, what are you trading for that? DeJounte Murray and somebody else. And then it's kind of just like, I feel like you're not really doing much for the team at that point. So it is interesting. I do agree, Sam. It does seem like a lot of these guys are going to be really solid like role players, but other than that, I don't know. Why don't we get right into our hot take segment? Speaking of the draft, I'll start with mine first. I have mentioned this before, and I will die on this hill. There's going to be a team that is stupid enough to draft Bronny specifically to get LeBron James. I know it. I know for a fact it will happen. Is it going to be the Lakers? Who knows? Most likely the Lakers will find a way. They have billion-dollar franchise, whatever. But like, I feel like there is a percentage. There's got to be like a little piece in their mind. And remember, this is a hot take. But there's got to be a piece in some of these franchises' mind where it's just like, if we draft this guy, there's a good chance we could get LeBron James on our team just for the year. And that's not going to make him win because, as we've seen, LeBron James, he ages like a fine wine, but eventually that wine is going to be a little bit too old. And like he said, this is going to be supposedly his last year playing that he wants to play with his son. So how competitive he will be, he's going to play his heart out because that's just who he is. But it's just like if a team like Atlanta or the Pistons or the Wizards try and play that card, they're not going to go very far. That's my take. I can't it's just I feel like it's a very interesting thought experiment where it's just like maybe a team is stupid enough to do that. Do you guys have any kind of thing that you want to say for that?
I think whatever team does that will get a lot of attention and do nothing with it. Like
Totally.
you might get LeBron James, you might get Bronny together in one place. But again, to your point, Matt, like we've seen what LeBron does in the playoffs right now without a full team around him, and it's lose. Sorry.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So it's not going to make a mid-team a championship contender. It might make a very good playoff team into a great playoff team, but no great playoff team or very good playoff team is going to draft Bronny for LeBron James like that. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a desperate attempt, and it's probably going to fail if it happens.
Sam?
Yeah, I think it's as we would say in our hood, I think you're being delusional. I think they made very clear that LeBron wants to end in LA. I see your point. I think someone might just bite the bullet and just take it regardless. I think in your case, I think it might even be better that they use as leverage, get
Yeah.
another piece from someone. Um, people are saying Austin Reeves, he's worth an equal all-star talent. I don't know if that's true. I think Austin Reeves is good, but I think he's just good. Um, so I'd be curious to see how Bronny gets really weighed into this. I think he's currently going 55th in the draft. I think he's actually just really like he's not a draftable player, in all honesty. I mean, there's just really not a lot of good talent. And obviously there's a lot of good talent, but just relative to other years, it's not as good. Um, so it would be interesting to see. I think he has a lot to work on his game, and it's definitely a real project. And is it worth people's time just to see towards the last few years of LeBron James? I don't know. If it's just sell tickets, maybe it'll work. I mean, so far it's showing that he's going to the Lakers at the 55th pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we'll have to see. But I would be surprised if someone does it, just knowing that LeBron literally probably won't. Like, why would he want to go to another place? I think if as long as he gets to play against his son, I feel like that would be enough for him. But I would just be a real shock if he makes a move out of LA.
Even if the Cleveland Cavaliers do it?
Never know. You never know.
Apparently, him being at the Cavs game in the playoffs is a big story. So who knows? Listen, there are a few things I just want to say really quickly, and then we'll move on to Kevin's hot point or hot take. This is not me saying that Bronny is a horrendous player and whatnot. Um, all of the hate against him has been kind of silly. Like I understand, like there are hot takes to be hot takes, and there are people that just kind of want the clicks and whatnot. But like, listen, the guy is gonna play professional basketball, and I'm going to be sitting here, taking care of a child in my suburban house. Like clearly somebody won. Listen, it's like the guy is obviously skilled. The next point that I want to just make is there was a tweet from Woj who did say that it seems like Bronny is not long for the G League, which kind of seems like the more likely take. That's probably what will happen. I can imagine him playing in the G League and like maybe he's like very successful and learns a bunch of stuff. And maybe, like I'm sure like if LA decides to draft him, if the Lakers decide to draft him, they could probably put him on their G League team because I believe LA does have one. So they could easily just do that and then just like bring him up if they need to, and then LeBron's right there. LeBron could easily just coach him. Like it's that simple. Um, Kevin, why don't you give us your hot take?
Mine's lukewarm. So there's been a lot of rumors surrounding JJ Redick and him getting or being first in line for the head coaching job in LA for the Lakers. We'll see if it happens. I think it'd be cool if it happens, but I think if it does happen, I think there's no middle ground with this. I think he is either going to be an outstanding coach and he's going to mesh really well with Bron and the team, and he's going to be a players coach, an actual good players coach, and not what we've seen a lot of times. I think he has insane basketball IQ, as we've seen in his podcasts and like just his commentating and everything like that. But I think there's a real possibility that he falls into the trap of many other player coaches, goes in, and it ends poorly. It does not end well, and he doesn't do anything beneficial for that team. I think those are the only two options. I don't think him going to LA would have no impact. I think it'll either have a very large positive impact or a substantial negative impact. And I'm really hoping it's the former because I love JJ. I think he could be an amazing coach, but I'm scared. I'm scared for him to do that and fall into that trap that so many others have, and so many of others have failed at it miserably.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are three different things that can happen. A, he could be head coach for a year and then get fired. B, be head coach for 2 years and then get fired. Or C, be very solid and LeBron James retires. Either way, it's probably going to make, for a majority of the part, the JJ Redick and LeBron James podcast a little awkward. Uh, Look, most likely he'll probably be the head coach and LeBron will retire. But like, let's be honest, as we have seen in years past, I think what was it? I think it was like nine. LeBron has gone through nine head coaches. Now he's been in the league for a long time, so that could be part of it. But for the most, like that shit doesn't happen. That shit does not happen, and clearly he has a huge say in what happens. So Kevin, yeah, it's definitely going to be one or the other. That is for sure. Sam, do you have anything else to say, or do you want to go for your last for the hot take?
I think I go along the lines of what Kevin says. I think it's also the curse of being a Lakers coach. I think just the amount of pressure. I mean, the shoes you have to fill is just like unreal. I mean, the last great coach was Phil Jackson. I think we all agree. Before that, Pat Riley. So I mean, like, let's look at the degree that these coaches have to deal with. And we've seen some good veteran coaches that have been in this role, and it just didn't work out. I mean, I've heard rumors of even Doc Rivers going to the Lakers as a head coach might be a thing. So I don't know. I definitely have an issue with player coaches just because I think the lack of respect for like youthful coaches is very prevalent in this league. And I think I find players better as color commentators rather than actual coaches at times. I think I can probably see LeBron being like actually good at being a coach. Um, but I mean, the thing is, like, it's LA though. Like, how can you turn down an LA gig? It's like, yeah, you get all the stress, but it is LA. Like, imagine it works out.
Yeah, 100%.
For Frank Vogel for a few years, but there is a lot of pressure. Like, if you don't, if you're getting knocked out or going into the playing round year after year, then you're on the hot seat automatically. So, I think we like JJ. I think for you guys, especially sticking for your brother.
Oh my God.
I think it's yeah. I mean, there's a lot. The lack of white coaches in this league is just unbelievable. I think it's just like a real minority starting to build. But I think we like JJ. I think the IQ is very good. But I mean, we saw Steve Nash try, and he was a few years removed from the NBA, quite a few years removed, and dealing with that superstar talent was very difficult. I think LeBron, it is a little bit different. I think there is like I think he's a lot less dramatic. I think people think he's really dramatic, but I think he's not that dramatic compared to a lot of athletes we've seen, like Kevin Durant, Kyrie, James Harden. Like the immaturity from those players. I mean, James Harden is like something else. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook is like, I think with LeBron, he just complains about like, okay, like it's more of like the management aspect as like, hey, I need some good talent. Like let's really push for that. But I think he's now at this age where he's just kind of coasting. It's like, okay, like coach, you just do whatever you want. Like I'm gonna do whatever I want. I think that's a mutual agreement. I think that's why LeBron, second round with the Cavs, Tyronn Lue, he understood the message. He just like LeBron's gonna be LeBron. Don't be like David Blatt and try to coach. It's like it's not gonna work. I think with any superstar talent, you can't coach superstar talent. That's why Pop says it too. Is like it's like I don't like coaching like good talent because they don't listen after a while. So let's see. I mean, it'd be fun. It'd be really fun to see how JJ in LA, with the Lakers now, going against the Clippers. I think it'd be a really fun show. Tyronn Lue from the Cavs, and it's all these weird tie-ins. I think it'll be a really fun matchup overall. Surprisingly, I haven't got to Paul George, so I think we'll be lucky to avoid a Paul George discussion.
That's kind of wild, actually. Why don't you give us your hot take?
Well, my hot take is Paul George. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It could be. We don't know yet, but I think going along the lines of the Atlanta Hawks, who I've been pretty strong fan except for the last couple of years with their moves. I'm a Trae Young I'm a Trae Young boy, BOI, to be exact. And I think this is the first time where a superstar talent has expressed their interest to be in this team, and the team has said, "Nah, I think we want to move on from you." So I think this is like a real showing that, like, I guess the NBA really doesn't respect loyalty, where it's wanted and needed. It's very surprising. I don't know if they're just doing it based off how strong of an athlete and talent Trae Young is. And like I said, I mentioned the roster; it's very lackluster. And I think we've seen the disappointment year over year. I mean, like Trae Young averaging nearly a double double his career, uh, 25 and a half points, 9.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists, 4 rebounds. I think is very prevalent in being in the. Also, still think it's a all-star caliber. But what makes it different than a Luka Doncic in terms of that stat? Those stats. We understand that there is the lack of defense, but I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot of good talent that doesn't play defense. Luka Doncic doesn't play defense. What makes it different in that caliber? They are very two distinct, unique players. Luka has a really strong, physique to him, which gives him that upper advantage. There is a height differential. Like I said, just having that body is proof that you kind of needed to kind of really survive in this NBA, and that gives anyone that's basically 6'1" and under a really disadvantage overall. But I think the team that receives Trae Young will immediately become a real contender for the championship. And we've seen it with just the way he, showcases the game. I know we talked a little bit off podcast. I think Matt even saying that he's maybe even a number 2 in some cases, but I think it's kind of like a light number 2. I kind of find him as like the Jaylen Brown category, where it's like he could be a 1 in cases, but being a 2, a consistent 2 would be, I think, a really much better compliment for him and for any team that really gets him. Um, and I think there's a lot of talks of him joining Victor Wembanyama with the San Antonio Spurs. A lot of the Spurs just kind of saying no, like I don't think it complements the game. I kind of differ. I think it actually does complement the game perfectly. I think the pick and roll with Trae Young succeeds consistently. It reminds me very CP3, Steve Nash-esque when he plays with like Sotomayor. It's just like he's never played with a really good big man. I mean, Clint Capella is very like average, but I don't think he's the kind of the guy that you need. You need someone that's you can throw a ridiculous lob and someone's going to be able to grab that. That's consistency. And I think Trae Young's never had someone that he could rely on for playing off ball more. When he needs to play off ball, he's been a guy that needs to have the ball constantly in his hand because everyone else in the team kind of fucking sucks. Where he's been with the Atlanta Hawks. So I'd be wild for you guys to disagree with me on this, because I think as the Trae Young stan of this podcast, I think we've seen that Trae Young, no matter how broken he is, he's been playing at a high caliber.
Yeah, I do like where you're going, where you're going with that. I do agree with that. The pick and roll that you were mentioning, it would be very fascinating to see him work that in with Wembanyama. Whether or not Trae Young and Pop would work together, who knows? But then again, we also don't know how long Pop's going to be in the league for. I mean, that rumor's been going on for how long now? For years. I would be interested to see what team would want to take Trae Young. Very well could be the Lakers. Very well, they might want to try and do whatever the hell they can to get the Lakers, to get Trae Young, because like you were saying, like that pick and roll, him and AD could be fierce, could absolutely be dominant. But it would be very fascinating to see like kind of how that progresses. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with all those points. I think Trae Young is that kind of two guy, but like a star 2 is a really interesting idea. And I hadn't really thought about it, but I do kind of like the Spurs' landing spot for him. I think to the point earlier, he's almost kind of like the LeBron in that, like, people think he has a lot of drama, but I really don't think he does. I think he's not that like dramatic or crazy or anything like that. I think he gets a lot of hate, but I think he would work out with like Pop and someone like that.
I have a hot take. I don't know. Like, I think this actually might be very interesting to me. Um, the Lakers, I don't know how much capital they have to get Trae Young and what pieces they would need to trade. You know who does have a lot of capital and a very good big man who's just starting out? OKC. Can you imagine Trae Young on Oklahoma? Like that would be very interesting in my opinion, having SGA, Holmgren, and Trae Young. Like that, I think that'd be very fascinating. And the Thunder have literally all the assets in the world. Like they could
Yeah,
make that happen.
and Oklahoma, he's an Oklahoma boy, so
Is he really?
he went to University of Oklahoma, so so
Ooh.
this could be a very interesting story as we move forward.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of reports saying that like how OKC is like one veteran away from being like a very dominant threat in the playoffs. I think they've been doing a pretty good job, but like, they're just never going to beat the Nuggets or the Wolves. But either way, very interesting conversation to be had. Very nice points from you guys. Thank you all so much for listening to the show and watching us. You guys can hear us on YouTube and Spotify at Uncontested with MSK. Also, go ahead and follow our Twitter, or I think we're trying to get. We do have a TikTok that I just started up, so hopefully we'll get some more clips up there and whatnot. It's just Uncontested MSK. But other than that, enjoy the playoff basketball and have a good night. Peace.
Arrivederci.